Tonight I want to talk about token standards on Tezos. So I want to explain what tokens are, what purpose they have on the blockchain, and see the different things that they accomplish on Tezos. And we're also going to compare them to all the standards that exist on other blockchains. So the first question that we're going to answer, so it's not going to be very technical, so everybody can follow. So the first question that we want to answer is what are tokens? So there are multiple types of tokens, and there are mostly two types of tokens that we're going to talk about tonight. The first type is fungible tokens. So fungible tokens, the idea is that one token, all the tokens that you have, they represent the same value. So for example, the British pound is a fungible token. If I have £1, you have £1, and we exchange them, we still both have £1. So that's the idea behind fungible tokens. There are multiple types of fungible tokens. We're going to see three of them tonight. The first type that you probably have heard about are called stable coins. So stable coins represent a currency that exists in the real world. So for example, on Tezos we have stable coins for the US dollar. So for example, KUSD. So the K in front of USD represents the protocol that issues those tokens, and here it's Colibri. We also have UUSD, so here the U stands for UVES. That's also another protocol issuing stablecoins on Tezos. And probably one of the most famous ones, the USDT, that joined Tezos a few months ago. That's also a stablecoin that we have on Tezos. The other type of token are called wrappers or wrapper tokens. So those tokens, they wrap a token that already exists, mostly on other blockchains. So you can use them on Tezos. You can sort of import them from another blockchain and use them on Tezos. So for example, TZBTC, that's a wrapper for the Bitcoin token that's been around on Tezos for a very long time. Recently, we also have USDCE. So it's a wrapper for USDC that's not on Tezos yet. And that wrapper is issued by the Plenty protocol. And also, it's also possible to wrap XTZ itself. For example, we have CTEZ, that's more or less a wrapper for XTZ. And the third kind of token are going to be like general purpose tokens. So there are tokens that are issued by a protocol. And okay, it's not working anymore. Hello? No. Should I try the other one? Hello? No, it's still not working. You can probably continue like that, or you want me to try the other one? I think it's enough for tonight, you know, like. Hello? Okay. So we can continue. And okay, so I was talking about like general purpose tokens. So there are tokens that are issued by a protocol or a company or another entity on Tezos, and you can use them on their platform. Like for example, recently we have the Ply token that's issued by the Plenty protocol that you can use on their platform. A lot of the rewards that they distribute to investors are in Ply. We also have Doga. So Doga is a token that's issued by Dogami, which is a game that you can play on Tezos, and you can use the token for different things in the game. The second type of token, which is probably more famous at the moment, is non-fungible token. So NFT stands for non-fungible token. So the difference, it's not going to work though.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
So the difference between fungible and non-fungible is that non-fungible tokens represent one thing, that's its own thing, you know, like, so if I have one NFT and you have another one, they're not the same thing, you know, so that's the difference with fungible token. So non-fungible tokens can be used for a lot of things. The most famous one at the moment is art and collectibles. So you can go on different platforms. On Tezos we have, for example, object.com or FXHash, and you can buy art from artists or other collectibles, but you can also use NFTs for other purposes. At the moment it's starting to be used in DeFi. So for example, on Plenty, you can, they issue NFTs that represent vested tokens on their platform. So you can get an NFT for that, and it represents your investment. And also for gaming. So it's starting to come to Tezos, where gaming platforms are issuing NFTs that represent items in your game, for example. So you can buy like a weapon or some clothes for your character in the game, and then it's an NFT, you can exchange it, you can do a lot of things with it. Okay, the next part is going to understand a little bit why we have those standards. So why token standards? Why did we take time to establish those standards? The first reason is interoperability. So it means that when you create a new platform, you want your platform to be able to work with tokens that already exist. And vice versa, when you create a new token, you want that token to be able to work with platforms that already exist. So standards have this purpose, that you will, when you create a new token on Tezos, you will follow that standard, and you will be 100% sure that it's going to be usable by other platforms that already exist on Tezos. The second purpose of standards is best practices. So those standards enforce best practices to avoid bugs in your contract or other problems that probably you didn't foresee when you were writing the contract. So there are some very brilliant people who thought about a lot of things that can go wrong with your token, and they created those standards just to make your life easier when you create a token, so you don't have to think about those edge cases, and you can focus on the purpose of the token. And the standards are also really good because they are a base that you can use to extend the functionalities of the standards. The standards are very good for that because it's just a template. So you just use that standard, and then you can implement your own functionalities in the token. You don't have to build your token just by following the standards. The standards are just the base that you use, and then you can build on that base to implement your own functionalities for the token. Very quickly, we're going to see standards. We're just going to introduce some standards that exist on other chains. Probably one of the most famous ones is the ERC20 on Ethereum. That's a reference on Ethereum, but also on other chains for fungible tokens. We also have ERC1155 on Ethereum. That's a little bit more recent for NFTs. Solana also. So I made some researches for the standards, and it wasn't very clear on Solana how it works, because on Tezos we have standards where it's a list of the token must do this and that, and in Solana it wasn't very clear what the token should do, but they have a template for that token, so the standard is called SPL, and I think it stands for Solana Program Library or something like that. Cardano also has standards, so CIP, Cardano Improvement Proposal. Let's be serious, the only improvement to Cardano is just to remove the whole thing. So, okay, now we're going to see the two standards. That's going on the internet. Yeah. Now we have two, we're going to introduce two standards, the main standards on Tezos for tokens. So the first one is TZIP7 to create AFA 1.2 tokens. So we're going to see a little bit what they do. So the AFA 1.2 standard is a standard for fungible tokens. So you cannot create NFTs with it. You will only be able to create fungible tokens like the ones that we talked about, stable coins and that kind of token. So we talked about some of them earlier, like KUSD, which is a stable coin, Tezos, that's a wrapper for XTZ, Plenty, that's a token that's used on the Plenty network. So all these standards, they're going to have pros and cons. There are some benefits of using them, and there also has some inconvenience. And then according to your use case, you're going to prefer one or the other. So one of the pros of using AFA 1.2 token is that it's a very simple standard, and it enforces very simple rules, and it's very easy to implement. I mean, the first Mickelson contract that I wrote manually was an AFA 1.2 token, because even the Mickelson is pretty easy to implement. So it's a simple standard, so it's very easy to understand what it does. Another pro is that it has a finite allowance. So what it means is that when you have, for example, an exchange that you want to use tokens on your behalf, you're going to give the right to this exchange to use your tokens. That's called an allowance. And in the AFA 1.2 standard, that allowance is finite. So you have to indicate exactly the amount of tokens that you want a third party to use on your behalf. So now let's see some cons about the standard. Of course, one of the biggest cons is that you can only make fungible tokens, so it's not possible to make NFT tokens with AFA 1.2. And the second one is you cannot make NFTs with that standard because there are no standard for token metadata. So it was added recently in the standard to like some base to add token metadata, but still optional. Sorry. So you don't, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. So we will see the other standard that's not optional and you have to do it. So this one is just really for AFA 1.2 tokens. And although it was one of the first standards, it's still used nowadays. Like for example, Tezos is an AFA 1.2 token. So there are still people who build on that standard for different reasons. Very quickly, because I don't want to make that too technical, the standard enforces entry points to the contract. So entry points, they're just like gates in the contract that you can use to trigger some functionality in the contract. And they are described in the standard, so you have to follow them. For example, there's a transfer entry point, so it means that every AFA 1.2 token is going to transfer tokens between two parties in the same exact way because it's enforced by the standard. The second one is approve. So approve is when you delegate some of your tokens to a third party. In that case too, you have to follow a certain standard. And all those tokens are going to behave the same way. So that's very good because when you're building an exchange on Tezos, you want to plug into these tokens, and you know exactly how the token is going to behave. You know, and all the tokens, all the AFA 1.2 tokens are going to behave the same way. You know, so it makes your life easier when you build an exchange. And the third one is get allowance. So it's just a way on chain to know how many tokens a user has. And the second standard is called AFA2. So this one is a more recent standard, and it's used in many cases. So it's a standard for fungible and non-fungible tokens. So you can So you can use that standard to build fungible tokens, or stable coins, or wrappers, or that kind of token, but you can also use it to build NFTs. So some examples of AFA2 tokens. I think one of the first AFA2 token was HDAO, which was the the token issued by Hikenlang on Tezos. I think it must have been like one of the first, like on mainnet. There's another platform for DeFi that's called UVES, where all their tokens are FA2. So I talk about UUSD, but they also wrap other tokens. They have UUSD, and they have a token that's called U. So all those tokens are FA2, and of course NFTs. So if you bought NFTs on Tezos, you bought an FA2 token. So just like the other standard, this one is going to have pros and cons. So one of the major pros is that it's a multi-assets token. So multi-asset means that not only you can use it for fungible and non-fungible tokens, but you can also mix them in the same contract. So in the same contract, you can have a fungible token and NFTs. You can even have multiple fungible tokens and NFTs in the contract. So it's in one contract you can have different types of tokens, which is very practical. And of course, it enforces token metadata. So the standard shows you how to store this metadata in the contract, which is also very convenient for NFTs. And now let's see some of the cons. So yeah, one of the cons is that this one has an infinite allowance. So when you want to use an exchange and you want that exchange to spend your tokens, you don't tell the exchange, okay, I'll just give you 10,000 of my tokens to spend, but you tell the exchange, okay, you can spend my tokens. Okay, so the allowance is infinite. I know that a lot of people think that's crazy, but actually there are some benefits of doing it, but it would be a little bit too long to explain. So yeah, it can be something good actually to do that. And the second one is that some people also complain that the standard is too general because you can build both fungible and non-fungible tokens. Some people would like a standard that would be a little bit more focused for NFTs, for example. And this standard was built to allow fungible and non-fungible tokens. So yeah, that could be an issue according to your use case. And this one too, so there are some entry points that are enforced by the standard, and they're very similar to the ones in the AFA 1.2. So for example, transfer, that's also an entry point to transfer tokens in the contract. Here, the benefits of the AFA 2 standard is that you can transfer multiple tokens at the same time, whereas in the AFA 1.2 standard, you can only transfer one token at a time. Update operators is like the approved one from AFA 1.2, where you can allow a third party to spend your tokens, and this one too you can allow multiple parties at the same time to spend tokens. And balance off is like the get allowance one, where you can on chain get the balance of users. And to finish, I just want to talk quickly about the future of token standards. Those standards evolve all the time, and there are new needs that come, and those people create new standards to answer these needs. And at the moment, there are a lot of people talking about AFA 2.1 tokens. So the first thing that you should know is that this new standard, so it's not finalized at the moment, it's still discussed, but it's going to be an extension of AFA 2. So it means that an AFA 2.1 token is going to be like an AFA 2 token plus some things on top of it. So it's still going to follow the AFA 2 standard. So for example, here they bring back the finite allowance. So in the AFA 2.1 standard, you will have to tell exactly how many tokens you want a third party to spend. They're bringing events. So not only the standard evolved because of needs, but because the blockchain evolves. And because Tezos introduced events recently, it's a very good feature of smart contracts. And now in the standards, in that standard, we're going to have events that are going to be built in the standard. And also on-chain views, so the standard is going to enforce some views to check different things like total supply, like the balance of users. So that's also an addition to the Tezos blockchain that happened last year. So yeah, so that standard is adding those things to the FA2 standard, finite allowance, events, and on-chain views. And another feature that was brought to the Tezos blockchain is tickets, and that standard is also going to allow the representation of tokens as tickets, which can be very, in my opinion, it's very convenient for NFTs, because a lot of users don't understand that NFTs stay, actually when you transfer NFTs, it all stays in the same contract, while tickets are going to allow NFTs to be actually sent to your wallet. The NFT is going to be in your wallet, so after the Mumbai upgrade. So that's something that can be a plus for users. So thank you very much for watching, and if you have questions, I can take them. Why don't you guys? Oh, you have a question?
So with FA 1.2, you allow third parties to spend your tokens. If they then don't, how do you remove that allowance?
Yeah, the same way you set it back to zero.
You just set it back to zero.
Yeah. So actually, it's kind of a common practice. I mean, it's a best practice in FA 1.2 that first you have to set the allowance to zero, and then you set the allowance to the number you want, and yeah, that you have to set it to zero first. I mean, the standard indicates that you cannot set a new allowance if it's not set to zero for, I think it's because of some re-entry issues or something like that. So
you set it to zero, and then you set it to whatever amount, and then you set it back to zero.
Yeah, and then you set back to zero. I mean, the last one is not enforced by the standard, but it's general common practice to do it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it may be longer to explain, but what is the benefit of infinite allowance?
Yeah, so I think one of the benefits would be with NFTs. So NFTs, you would like some people to transfer your NFTs. For example, there are people who are personal shoppers, and you want them to buy NFTs on your behalf. You want them to spend your NFTs, and you trust them, and you don't want to verify all the time that they. I think the main benefit is for NFTs, not really for fungible tokens, because it doesn't. In my opinion, it doesn't really make sense for a DEX to transfer as many tokens as they want on your behalf. But I think for NFTs it makes sense. In the case of you have a personal shopper or a curator or someone like that you trust, and you just want to tell them, okay, you should buy those NFTs on my behalf. You can sell my NFTs, and they can judge, how to do it in the best way.
So, question from my side. Sorry, just lost the voice. Okay, good. So, in terms of wrap token, can you explain a bit more how they work, in the specific instance? So, there's a BTC, for example. How does it work exactly?
So yeah, there are different mechanisms for wrap tokens. Like for example, TZBTC, you have to call Bitcoin Suisse, and you have to say, okay, I have 10 Bitcoins here. Can you wrap them on the Tezos blockchain? So that's one of the ways. I mean, I'm just simplifying it, but there are companies that wrap tokens on your behalf. You just agree with them on the details. But there are also bridges. So bridges are more like a decentralized way of wrapping tokens. Like that's, for example, what Plenty does, where you go on the Ethereum side and you say, okay, I have USDC and I want to bridge them to Tezos, and there's a whole process where you send your USDC to the bridge, and and then the bridge is going to wrap them for Tezos. So you have to sign a transaction on the Ethereum side, and then you have to wait for some.
So is there any Oracle on chain or?
Sorry?
Is there any Oracle to check? Is there other chain?
I don't know exactly. I would think that yes, they have a way to know exactly how many, but I mean it's USDC, so no, like if you wrap 10 USDC on the Ethereum side, you're going to get 10 USDC on the Tezos side. Yeah.
You said FA 2.1?
Yeah.
Any ideas when it will be kind of launched or standardized?
I don't know exactly. I think they're still talking about it. I didn't see any progress on that at the moment. But yeah, probably soon. I think. Yeah.
You talked about tickets, so just excuse my ignorance, but what do you mean by tickets?
Oh, okay.
Relating to FA 2.1.
Yeah. So tickets. That's one of the best features, in my opinion, on Tezos. Like they're a very nice type of value, and I'm going to try not to go too technical, but like tickets, you have like 3 values in the ticket. You have the address of the contract that issued the ticket, and only a contract can issue a ticket. You have a value in the ticket that can be like almost anything. And then you have an amount, so that's the amount of tickets, okay? And one of the good things about tickets is that only a contract can issue them, and you cannot duplicate them. Like you can split them. Like if you have an amount of 2 in the ticket, you can split them, and now you have 1 and 1. And you can also join them, and now you have 2 tickets again. So they're very flexible value like that, and they also store something inside, like it can be like, it can be a lot of things. So that's why it can be very interesting for NFTs. Like I imagine you would be able to store like some reference to the metadata or something like that. So it would be great. And at the moment, tickets can only be exchanged between smart contracts. But with the Mumbai upgrade, then you're going to be able to send them to we call that implicit accounts, or like accounts from normal people, not only contracts. So you will be able to have tickets in your wallet. So I think that's a very great update on tickets. I'm not taking questions from you.
If you exchange one ticket between 2 optimistic roll-ups, you have to wait 14 days to go to the next roll-up.
There are some people here who know better about roll-ups than me, so probably.
Yes, there are a couple of options that. So currently, yes, that would be the case. But if, say, the ticket in question was a liquid asset, then you could also have a third party, say, issue you like 98% of your ticket allocation that you withdrawn from the first roll-up, and then they keep the full allocation. So they could have a 2% cut, but you could get immediately like most of your tickets that you can then deposit into the next roll-up. That's also an option.
Any more questions?
So this is more of a political question in some sense. No, I mean, like, okay, FA 2.1, like tickets, like they will be in your implicit account. So many people, many organizations that do actually have, for example, stablecoins, they really like to have a censorship operation, like to freeze your accounts. So will they actually use the? I think that it's much better.
I think that technically, I mean the transfer entry point. I'm trying to remember the standard exactly. I don't want to say something wrong, but I have the feeling that it's possible to have a transfer. No, you cannot have a transfer. I mean, the standard explains exactly how the transfer between 2 accounts work. But if I remember correctly, it doesn't say anything about tampering with that transfer. So I don't think that would be possible. I mean, a company that would issue a stablecoin, an FA 1.2 token, and would try to tamper with the transfer between 2 accounts, I think it wouldn't follow the standard. Yeah.
if you want to find out more about like the proposal for 2.1, is the best place like Tezos Agora? Or
Yeah, so I was reading. I think there's a TZ already for on GitLab. So yeah, it's very well done.
Does it make use of views?
Hmm?
Does it use views?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, which is better.
If you have a token in the F1 or 2, are you able to put it like in the FA2?
Not directly, but you could imagine having a wrapper or something like that that would wrap your token on the FA2. So I don't think there's such a solution at the moment. Like when you create the token, you would choose the standard that you want to, but technically it's possible. I think. Yeah, you just wrap it. Andrea?
Yes. No, this is more like, what do you think are the best features that have been introduced, and what do you think it should be introduced next that has not been discussed?
For tokens?
For tokens.
No, I mean, there are people smarter than me who created those standards. So, yeah, I don't know if I would think about better features, but I think the FA 2.1 looks pretty good. I really like events. It's a new feature that we have on Tezos. It's not really used at the moment, and I think having events about like when you transfer tokens or stuff like that, I mean, it would be really great. Like we're going to be able to build dApps, that react to these events. So like you're sitting in front of your computer and then you get a notification that hey, you received 10k USD or something like that. I mean, that would be like a great feature. So I think events are really good in the standard. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.